Hello and welcome to the Real Success Podcast. I'm your host, Candice Mama. Before I jump into today's guest, you know what to do. If you like this podcast, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find us. Today's guest is none other than self-made millionaire, investor, and entrepreneur, Darren Winters. Darren has changed thousands of lives using investment strategies that he teaches across the world. Without further ado, here's the phenomenal Darren Winters.
Oh, hi there.
Hello, Darren. How are you?
Yeah, very good. How are you?
I'm lovely, thank you. I first wanted to say thank you so much for sitting down with us for the Real Success Podcast.
Yeah, that's fine. Sounds fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I was looking at so much stuff that you've done, and I just thought to myself, how does one man get so much done in one sitting? I was just like, okay, this is going to be fun.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my priorities now, is to get a lot done without taking up much of my time. So.
That's a great priority. Speaking of which, all the stuff that you have done, you have been featured in Forbes, you've been on Sky News, you have trained thousands of people to become investors. And one of the people you trained was actually the New York Times bestseller, Raymond Aaron. So, I mean, geez, Darren, how on earth does one get here? Like, I want to take it back to the beginning. Was this always your destiny path? Was this always like, I'm going to be an investor someday?
No, not really. When I was at school, I was kind of, well, I guess let's go right back to the start.
Yes,
my parents
please.
were both teachers, and we had quite a big family, and they earned teachers' wages, which isn't a lot. And I could see we had a great time as kids, but I could see they were kind of struggling just to support us all. And I thought, when I'm older, I want to be in a position where I have choice to do whatever I want, and money isn't an issue, isn't a factor in the decision. And I started to look, even at school, when I was like, I don't know, 14, 15, I started to think about, well, how can I do that? How can I become wealthy? And for some, well, I know why, I started to get into stock market investing, or at least reading about it, because I'd seen these TV shows and films where the stockbrokers, they were always these rich guys. And I thought, okay, so that could be a solution. And I kind of got into reading a little bit about that. That's initially how I started. And then, I mean, a bit later on, once I'd finished my school and my education, I met somebody who was very good at investing. And that kind of triggered me to really pursue it hard, and just, I tracked down the best people in the world and said, look, you got to teach me this stuff. And I would do whatever it took to get people to teach me one-to-one. And yeah, I ended up working for people for free for months and months, just so they'd spend an hour with me, and sleeping on their floors, and doing their dishes for them, and cooking for them, and anything that it took to learn. And I guess once I started to get into it, I realized this is the solution. This is the way to make a lot of money that doesn't take much time. And I've really been very lucky to find this so early on, and I thought, I've got to pursue this now.
Oh, I love that. But tell me, what kind of a mindset does one have to have if you go back, right? Like you saying, you did what it took, right? You slept on floors, you worked for free, like all of that. Like, yes, we can speak about it in summary, and I call it the 5-minute movie montage, you know, like when they fast forward all the suffering and they take you to the characters like triumphant moment. But it does take a very particular mindset to actually push through that. How did you do it? Like, how did you wake up every day feeling like, okay, what I'm doing will pay off?
Yeah, I think it was really, I mean, Tony Robbins talks about this, the pain and the pleasure. And without really knowing about it back then, I was very focused on the reward that I would get at the end of the process. And I could see, okay, once I've mastered this, for the rest of my life, I'm going to have the choice to do whatever I want with my life. And that was very motivational for me, very powerful. But at the same time, I had the pain side of things, where I'd seen how you can struggle and how things can be tough. If I didn't achieve this, I saw what my life was going to be like in that path as well. So I had both of these kind of visions, if you screw up, this is where you're going to be. If you pursue this and you put in the effort and the time, this is what you've got to look forward to. And having those multiple drivers, and I suppose they were just quite clear in my head. And that was enough to get me up each morning and say, look, you got to do this. If you don't, this is your whole life we're talking about. It's not, it's a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain, I guess, is what I realized early on.
Oh, and what about like friends, like people around you, your community? Because I mean, it's not a path that everyone was following at the time, I'd assume. Like everyone must have looked at you like, why are you working for free, Darren? What are you doing with your life?
Friends, yeah, I guess that's quite another topic, because going through that process, I did dedicate a lot of time, a lot of effort into it, and it meant I missed out on lots of things over that period of time. I missed out on friends going to the pub, and I go, nah, I'm doing something, I'm studying, I'm going to miss that, and I missed a lot of socials, I missed a lot of other things in life that were happening because I was so dedicated on this. But again, I was thinking, okay, this is short term. This is only going to be for a little bit of time, and then once I've done this, things are going to be so much better. It will be worth that little sacrifice. And I mean, I did miss out on quite a few socials, and people would say, "What are you doing? Why can't you come to the pub and sit and drink with us?" It's like, well, I've got another plan. I'm happy to socialize, but I just can't right now. And I mean, the way it turned out is, once I'd kind of mastered this, and it didn't take too long. I mean, it did take a bit of effort, but it didn't take too long. I then did start to refocus on my friends, my social network, and things became even better because I could do some crazy adventures with people. And I had some really good friends who, they liked me whether I was rich or not, and we'd go and have all kinds of fun. Well, now, even my friends from right back then, we go snowboarding around the world together, heli skiing in Japan and Alaska, and we do all kinds of crazy fun things. And I've kind of taken them with me, and I've taught them what I learned, so they've now got lots of money and time. And although it took me, well, it actually took me a few years of very hard studying and tracking people down and learning from the best in the world, now for me to teach other people is super easy because I know the path. I've done the hard work, I've done the trial and error, and I can literally sit down with someone in I don't know, an hour. In an hour, I can have them pretty good. They'll know a lot of stuff that people who've been doing this for years wouldn't even realize, which maybe that's part of having parents as teachers. I know how to teach people in a like really clear, simple way. So I took all my friends up, like, okay, sit with me, I'm going to show you how to do this. Which they obviously appreciated.
Oh, I love that. It made me think of, Malcolm Gladwell is at 10,000 hours to become an expert.
Yeah.
And like having to sit and dedicate. So what you did was you sat and dedicated those hours and hours of learning and working for free and sacrificing the social time in order to become a master, and then in order to be able to teach it within an hour.
Yeah. It's I think with anything in life, if you get very, very good at it, you can then teach others very quickly to get to a good level. Like maybe not the absolute masters, but you can get them to a good level fairly quickly. And that from experience, there just aren't that many people in the world who've dedicated that amount of time and effort into anything. So now when I want to learn a new skill, I'm looking for that type of person in a different topic. And because I don't want to waste my time. I'm here to maximize my fun and my impact and everything whilst I'm here. I don't want to learn from someone who's good. I want to learn from the best or one of the best. My kids, I wanted them to learn taekwondo. When I was a kid, I learned martial arts, judo, taekwondo, and I wanted my kids to get very good at it. So I had a look at the martial arts that were taught in my area. And I mean, I live in London, so there was anything you wanted. But one guy who lives, well, it must be just a couple of miles away from here, was the world champion in taekwondo. I was like, you're learning taekwondo. He's the guy. You got to learn this. If you get a chance to learn from someone who's the best, that's just an incredible experience. And both my kids got their black belts by, I think, age 10. And just not just the learning martial arts, it was the whole mindset that the guy taught, because I knew he's got to have the right mindset to have got to that position. And he taught them lots of really cool stuff just about life. So yeah, but if I want to get good at something, I find the best person, pay them whatever it takes, do whatever it takes, because I know I'm going to get massively, massively accelerated results that way.
You know, you just mentioned martial arts, and I think that is actually, I've read so many people's, you know, biographies and their stories, and I find that a lot of successful people have some sort of a discipline structure when they become successful or when they acquire skill. Some have been in the army, others have been athletes, you know, so there's constantly that mindset thing. How much do you think you having taken on martial arts at an early age helped you become the person you are?
Definitely helped. I would say not just martial arts, but when I was a kid, one of my parents, my dad, was a teacher. Well, he was actually a maths teacher, but he also taught PE, physical education, and he then went on to become a manager of a sports centre. So when I was a teenager, he'd just taken over this sports centre, so he really got into sports in a big way, and I became very good at a lot of different sports. One of them swimming, and I was like competed at almost, well, kind of a national level in the UK swimming. We did badminton, trampolining, martial arts, and we learned this kind of, I suppose, training discipline. My swimming teacher was the Olympic coach, and I trained for swimming. I was training 9 times a week, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, training 2 hours before school when I was a teenager, sometimes twice a day training. And he taught me a lot of good stuff on discipline, focus, and learned lots of things there. So I think through sports, I learned lots of really useful skills for life in general. And something interesting when I'm hiring people for any of my companies now, I mean, I've got managers who hire most of the people, but when I used to hire people, one of the things I'd look at on their CVs is I didn't really care too much about their education, what degrees they got, really couldn't be that bothered about it. What I cared about was, did they have a hobby or a sport that they pursued and achieved really well at? And when I saw that, I was like, okay, they're going to be good. They've got the right mindset. Some of the best people I ever hired had just excelled at a sport, a musical instrument, a hobby, and that's still the kind of people I look for in my companies.
Wow. What is that key trait you find? Have you found that there's one common trait that these people tend to have, or you tend to have when you are hiring them?
Probably persistence, I reckon. I think that's the number one, is just really keeping going even when things don't go well. I think even if you're not that clever, even if you don't have the right contacts, you don't have the right background, you don't have any experience, if you are persistent and you just keep on going, you will succeed eventually. As long as you change your approach, if you just keep doing the same thing, obviously that's not going to work. But if you just keep trying new things, even accidentally, you're going to find what works eventually. And I think a lot of people I've spoken to who've become billionaires, multi-billionaires, and I'll talk with them and I'll say, hey, how did it all start out for you? Were you successful straight away? And nearly always they failed massively, and they kept going through it. I mean, Richard Branson, multi-billionaire, he's had so many companies go bankrupt on him, but he's kept going, and he's now hugely successful. Almost everybody I talk to has had that happen to them. I mean, me, myself, one of the first businesses I ran, I was doing my investing, but I was also running a company on the side, which was something else I wanted to do. I wanted to become an entrepreneur as well. I was running a travel management software, and we did very well, became a very big, successful company. And after about 3 years, we went bankrupt. We made some stupid mistakes, some novice mistakes in business. We overexpanded, got too many people, got big fancy offices, and ended up we couldn't keep the cash flow going to cover the costs, and we went bankrupt. And I was at a stage where our business went down with £250,000 debt, $250,000 debt. Everything was taken from us. I had nothing. It was like, okay, what do we do now? Do I get a job, or do I focus on the investing, or do I And I just had to make that decision after everything I'd worked for 3 years suddenly was gone. And it was like, okay, you're worse than nothing. Your company's gone down with $250,000 debt. What do you do now? And I think it's moments like that that decide, is this person going to be successful or are they not? Because I could have easily said, I've had it, that's it. I'm getting a normal job. I'm going to do what normal people do. Again, I think it came back to this vision. This is your life if you succeed. This is your life if you don't. What are you going to do about it? And I was like, okay, got to do this.
Cool. I mean, as I was listening to you speak about, the failure, I think that's one of the big things, right? People are so afraid of failing. They think that is like the biggest, that is like the kiss of death. But as you said, so many people have, including yourself. And one thing I really want to go into is, we speak about overcoming failure a lot. Like, yeah, I bounced back from failure and then now look at me now, I'm doing so amazing. But Darren, did you ever feel like in those moments, like after your business was shutting down and you realized, oh my goodness, I'm not only where I was before, I'm actually worse off because now I'm in all this debt. Did you have a moment where you just stepped back and you were like, okay, I need to go cocoon in my corner and figure this thing out?
Yes, I think the initial reaction to a huge failure like that is, I mean, for me, I had times, I mean, that's not the first time where almost everything's gone wrong. It's happened again, many, many years ago, but I've been through it a couple of times. And I mean, the first few days, the first few weeks afterwards, I'd had moments where I just sit down and cry and say, oh my God, what am I doing? It's like, I've just ruined my life. And it takes a bit of time to get perspective back. And I mean, I know all this stuff. You've got to think positive. You've got to take the lessons you've learned and use them. But in the moment, you're just thinking, this is it. I've totally screwed everything up. But I think if you give it time, you give it a few days, you give it a few weeks, you do then start to get a bit of a better perspective on things. And you say, okay, maybe I've lost everything. Maybe I'm now in debt, but I'm not actually worse off because I've got all these super valuable lessons that a lot of people just don't have because they haven't been through this process. And I'm in such a stronger position now because of that. It was a valuable time. It was a valuable process. And I look back on anywhere where I've supposedly had a failure and I think, wow, that was amazing. That was just so useful to other things I've done in life now. And even with my first business that failed, it taught me about how you have to be very sensible about your costs. You've got to always keep your costs to the minimum, make sure your overheads are low, do whatever you can to do that. In a future business that I ran, lots of my competitors, they were all hiring these big offices. I bought my office as a property investment and I made millions on my property investment as well as reducing my overheads. And it's led me to do a lot of smart things, which I wouldn't have done without going through the process. So I think failure is not really a failure. You will come out of it stronger with a better base to do anything else you want from.
Oh, I love that. It's like accumulating your own book of life, your own book of wisdom and knowledge. And when you go into these new arenas, as you said, you're not starting from scratch, you're actually starting with an abundance of knowledge. And also, it sounds to me as you're speaking as though not only do you come out of it, but once you do come out of it and you've, processed and gone through the emotions of like failing, you actually feel stronger. You feel like you are more capable of taking on what's next. Or am I wrong?
Yeah, I would say kind of two sides to that. Part of you is still coming out of something like that. You are a bit scared, really, because you're thinking, okay, I did all that work. Is it going to happen again? But then the other side of it is, well, I suppose it depends on the personality as well. The other side of it is I'm even more determined that I'm going to succeed this time and I'm going to do it right this time. I know what to do. I've learned the lessons. Yeah, I mean, coming back to investing, which ended up being my passion and what I found is the best way to make money fast. Even going through that process, when I first learned, I hadn't learned properly. I'd learned from a few people who taught me certain bits, but they kind of missed out bits. And the first time I got into investing, I lost some money. Not massive, but I lost some money doing that. And I thought, okay, fine, I've lost some money. I learned a lot of good lessons there. Here we go. We're going through the same process again. And I know from my previous experience that if I keep going, this is going to be massively successful. So that time I was fine with it. I was like, yeah, okay, stupid mistake, didn't learn properly. Probably should have learned from somebody who knew a bit more, and then went through that process. But also it was part of going through all of this because I ran lots of businesses. I got into property investing. I did online business, offline businesses, all kinds of things. And at the same time I was learning investing, because I'd seen all these different approaches to getting wealth. I could see, well, for me, very quickly, I saw investing is the best way, because out of everything, it was the one thing that once I'd learned how to do it, took very, very little time, and was producing bigger and bigger and bigger returns as my money was growing and compounding. Whereas business always took a lot of time. Property always took a lot of time. Doesn't matter how successful I became, it was still taking a lot of time. Investing, I got to a stage fairly quickly where it's literally taking me an hour a week, sometimes less. And I started to make more money from that than anything else I was doing. And I was like, wow, this is totally the answer. I've got to focus on this. And yeah, I guess I wouldn't have realized that unless I'd done all these other things early on in my life.
Oof. I love that. I want to get back to speaking about investing, but before I do, you spoke about fear. One thing I hear, especially within this development field or in anything that people are trying to grow, I'll hear people say, Darren, I want to do this, but I'm so afraid. I'll come back to you when I'm less afraid. I'll come back to you when I'm feeling more brave, And what do you tend to say to people who say that to you? That I'm too afraid to invest with you, Darren. Give me some time.
I think fear is probably one of, if not the biggest thing that holds people back in life. When I was at school, I was very, very shy. Like I'm sure I was the shyest person in the whole school. And at about the age of, I was so shy at school that I didn't even want to talk to anybody. We had to do this thing at school where I'm sure most people had to do this, where you had to go in front of the class and read a poem or read a book or something. And I never did that. I would deliberately miss school whenever we had to do that. I'd pretend to be ill or something, because that was like that. I just couldn't possibly imagine doing that. And it got to the age of when I was about 14, 15, where I realized that it was going to hold me back in life if I was so shy. And also at that age, I kind of wanted to start chatting to girls, and I was too scared to even do that. So I thought, okay, I've got to master this. I've got to get over this. And I don't know, at that stage, for some reason, I decided I am deliberately going to do what scares me the most. And I thought, okay, what would scare me the most in life? Public speaking. So I decided I will learn public speaking. And when I left school, I applied to teach an evening class in a college. And I basically wrote to I wrote to a college and I said, look, can I teach a topic at your college? I said, I've got no experience, but I've got a really good topic to talk about, which was investing, which I was just learning at the time. And they wrote back, said, no, they said, we don't want you, not interested. I was like, okay, fine. And I wrote to 5 other colleges, said, I want to teach an evening class. They all wrote back saying no. I wrote to 50 other colleges saying, I want to teach an evening class. They wrote back saying no. I wrote to 300 more colleges in London, all around London, saying, I want to teach an evening class. One of them wrote back saying yes. And I taught an evening class for a year. And I turned up to teach my first lesson. And my plan was, I thought it was going to be a really small thing. And it was. I turned up for my first lesson. I think I had 9 people in the class. I was so scared that I was almost physically sick. I was like shaking, like really obviously shaking and sweating. And I got up and I taught this class. And I said to the group, look, I'm just really scared. I've never done this before, but I've got some good stuff to share with you. Got through that class eventually, kind of. By the end of those 10-week term, I was okay teaching 9-10 people. I definitely wasn't good, but I could stand up without shaking too much. Next term, people got to hear that my class was actually good, the content, not the delivery. I had 50 people that term. I was scared as anything for the first lesson, 50 people. Did 10 weeks. By the end of 10 weeks, I was okay with 50 people. I mean, now I give talks to 5,000 people on stage with spotlights on me and music going. I really don't care. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. But that's just because I deliberately push through that fear. Yeah. And people say, oh, is there an easy way to do it? Is there a strategy for overcoming fears? No, I mean, the strategy is just do it. Just if you're scared about something, just do it and you'll get over it. Yeah. I don't think there's any other particular way of doing it.
I love that story though. I love that, I think most people while they're listening are thinking to themselves, yeah, no, like, I mean, I'm going to do that, Darren. And then you're like, yep. And then I wrote to 300 more. And then most people would have been like, you know what? 10 said no. That is the universe speaking to me. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I think definitely having that determined mindset is part of it for sure. And I think the other thing I think with entrepreneurs and very successful people, they don't like the rules and they don't like people telling them no. If somebody tells me I can't do something, I will immediately think, I'm sure I could. I'm sure I could if I wanted to, and I'd find a way. It doesn't matter what you say. If I want to do that, I'll find a way to do that, which helps a lot in life, because I think there's a lot of rules out there which are what I would call stupid rules. They're not necessary and they hold people back. And also people come up with rules just because they're scared themselves. And they think, well, if I'm scared, I'm going to stop everyone else from doing this. And I mean, there's rules, of course, which are good in there to help everyone and protect everyone. But some rules are just, I think, should just be broken. But it's probably an entrepreneur talking there.
Oh, no, that's fantastic. I love it because it's true. Like the only way through is through it. Like there's no other way. There's no like, I need to do this because I mean, public speaking is one of people's greatest fears, right? Like it is ranked up there. I think it's either the first or the second one, if I'm not mistaken, of people would do anything other than be in front of others. And you and I get to do this, obviously, like as a career, and we get to speak to thousands of people, and it becomes something that is more natural to you. And to you, you start thinking like, why would anyone be afraid of this? Like it is not that big a deal.
Yeah. And I think I'm sure you know this as well from speaking, but one of the biggest fears people have about public speaking is, what if I make a mistake? And what if I say something stupid?
Yes.
And it's when you get to the stage where you actually just don't care. I mean, it doesn't really matter if either of us said something stupid now. I mean, who cares? It doesn't really matter in the bigger picture. Just people sometimes take themselves a bit too seriously.
Oh, yeah.
And something actually thinking about that, which made a big difference to me. When I got good at public speaking, a lot of people would come up to me and they say to me, "Oh, it's so good. You're just a natural public speaker." And I'm like, I said, it's so far from the truth. I was like the worst possible public speaker. And they were like, "But you just seem so natural." I'm like, yeah, that's because I've done it 1,000 times. And it made me realize that when I see other people who are exceptionally good at something, I now immediately think to myself, I bet they used to be rubbish. And because they're good, all I need to do is learn their strategy of how they got good, and I can be as good as that. Because I think some people, they'll see someone who's really good at something and they think, oh yeah, they're just natural, I could never do that. And that's just not true. They were rubbish. You just got to learn their strategy and you'll be as good as them, or even better, maybe you could be. And it kind of frees you up to learn from good people.
I love that. I absolutely love it. I call it the pedestal effect. So what we tend to do in society, right? I mean, we've been taught this from the time we're this big, that superstars, for example, like they are so far above humanity as a whole that we should worship them. We should idolize them. They get to be on the cover of magazines and but we don't actually pay attention to what, as you said, what did it take for that person to be there? and how can I get there? Because if there is someone who's doing what you want to do and you feel you could really be good at it, there's a way to get there. But I think, like you said, it actually ties into everything you said so beautifully, which is the rules we create for ourselves and that others impose upon us. We were like, oh no, Darren, like I come from a conservative family. I'm a woman, I'm Black, I'm this, like if we're looking for an excuse, trust me, you will find one. You'll be like, oh man, I just have a persistent pain in my chest. It just won't go away. So I'm just not going to do it. So it is that programming. It is allowing yourself and giving yourself permission to be bad. I think, as you said, most people want to be perfect on the first try instead of just doing it and being like, I'm probably going to suck. That's how I approach things. I'm like, I'm probably going to suck at this, but then in a few months, I'm not going to suck at it. So that's good enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah. If you go into something with that expectation, because a lot of people do get discouraged when they try something new and they're not immediately good at it, and they're like, okay, it's not for me. Yeah, sure it was. You just had to keep going. Yeah.
But it's very similar to investing, right, Darren? I think the one thing I know that is a huge fear of people is you are so good at this. You're an investor. You know how the markets work. You know how Forex works. You know how the stock market works. And is that like a huge thing for you that you encounter when people start your classes, where they come in with this fear and this doubt that this is something that will work for them?
Yeah, I think because it's kind of like a different, almost like a different language with different terms and different things, and so people are naturally kind of a bit scared of it. But again, it's all about how it's taught. I think I learned a very good way to teach even complete beginners from teaching children, because I'm sure you heard me talk about this, where I teach 10, 11-year-old children how to invest. In a couple of hours, I get them making money. And going through that process of teaching kids how to do this, I learned how to teach it in a really simple way so people can understand. And anybody can learn if you learn from the right person, you learn in the right way. It can be taught clearly, simply. But yeah, I know a lot of people come in and they're scared, which is fine. It's natural. At least they've taken the action, and I know they can overcome it as long as they've taken that action and they're on the training, and I can teach them how to do this. Yeah, so it's just getting past that first kind of step, I guess. I mean, even for me, a couple of years ago, I started learning about cryptocurrencies, and I'm an investor. I mean, I know this stuff, but there was different terminology, different strategies, different things. To me, it was a bit overwhelming when I first started. I was like, whoa, this is like a whole new thing. But I knew that all I had to do was go through the first bit of process, and it becomes second nature, it becomes simple, which it did. And now that I know it, I could teach people cryptocurrency trading in an hour. I could teach them the most important things and how to do it and what they need to know. Whereas I went through the long process of trial and error and finding out what worked and what didn't work. And I think in life, I'll always look for the shortcut in life. And the shortcut in life is finding the best person, learning from them. I'm just learning rock climbing at the moment. Bouldering, where you do rock climbing without ropes, and you climb up about, not too high, you climb maybe like 5 meters. So if you fall off, you just fall onto like a crash mat. But one of the first things I did is I went along, had a go by myself just to see if I generally enjoy it, which I do. We took my kids along, and they love it as well. And then I said, okay, we got to find someone who's very, very good, get them to teach us. Yeah, because it will save us years of trying to learn the technique by ourselves, and it becomes more fun. If you're good quickly, it's more fun, you enjoy it, you get better at it. So I think that's a good approach.
I think that's a fantastic approach. And you do have a passion for teaching kids how to trade. How did that even come about? Like, when were you sitting in your kitchen one day looking at your kids and you're like, you know what, kids, we're going to trade today? Like, how did that come to be?
That was pretty much it. Yeah, that was pretty much it. I think I was actually, I was looking through some charts, looking for a trade, and I had my son sitting on my lap, and he was like 5 or 6. And I wasn't trying to teach him, he was just sitting there watching. And he was like, that one. And I'm like, yeah, that is actually a good trade. I was like, how do you know that? And he's like, it's going up. And I was like, okay, that's a good start. It is actually going up. And he was just been sitting watching me probably a couple of sessions while I was doing this. And he was like, you always get these ones like this. I'm like, he's like 6 and he's getting it. I thought, okay, I'm going to start teaching them properly. And I mean, I really properly started teaching them when they were about 10, how to invest. But I taught them some of the simple stuff when they were kind of 6 and 7. And I saw how they enjoyed it and got into it. And I thought, oh, this is cool. I should be teaching other kids how to do this. And I did this deliberately. I taught the course free because I wanted to reach out to people who maybe kids that maybe didn't have the opportunity to do this, who didn't have parents who could afford to pay for them to be trained. And we got kids from all different backgrounds, and a lot of them came from like really poor kind of tough backgrounds. And I thought, this is so cool. This is giving them a chance to learn a skill that they'd never probably get the opportunity to do otherwise. And they loved it. They like really got into it. And I had so much fun teaching the first few that we did. I was laughing so much during it because we just had an amazing time. And I'd say to the kids, because they'd turn up at the lesson and their parents had kind of dragged them along and they weren't keen to be there. They'd rather be outside playing football or something. So they came in, sat down, and they'd be sitting there with their arms crossed. They're like, come on then, what are you going to do? I was like, okay. So the first thing I did is I said, look, I'm going to teach you the trade. Once you know how to do this, it's going to give you money so you'll have the choice to do all the things you love in life. And they're like, yeah, kind of. And then I pulled out a brand new iPad. I said, we're going to have a trading competition. Whoever wins gets this iPad. And they were like, oh, okay, we're going to learn how to do this. And that got them interested. They were like, okay, we want that iPad. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And
that's great. And what do you find is the biggest difference when you are teaching kids versus when you're teaching adults? Do you find that one is more susceptible than others, one's more resistant than others once they get into it?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest difference is kids will naturally just have fun with it, and they don't take it too seriously. Parents are like, there's this bit of fear always with parents trying, or adults I should say, trying to do something new. That little bit of fear, and also they got to get it 100% right. And I don't know, they just, every step they're taking really seriously. And the kids, I was teaching them, I taught them a strategy, and I was on step 3 of like a 5-step strategy. And one of the kids goes, yes, I'm up 100 pounds. I'm like, I haven't even finished teaching the strategy. And so like, yeah, I'd learn enough. I'm just doing it. It's like, okay, cool. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of attitude. I mean, it probably would have been useful to hear the last 2 steps, but I mean, he's just like, yeah, I'm excited. I'm going for it. And if I make mistakes, I'll learn from them. I'm good with this. It's like, yeah, excellent, do it. And he actually ended up, I think, getting 2nd place in the trading competition. He was just like so excited and enthusiastic about it. He was just going for it. I was like, cool.
Oh, that's fantastic. And you also work with a lot of charities, Darren. So what got you into that? What made you feel like, you know what, I want to give back. I'm doing so well, because you are a self-made millionaire. So what made you get into the charity route and starting to do these courses?
Yeah, I think for the charity side of things, a lot of that was because of my parents. Because when I was growing up, my parents were very good at instilling good morals, I guess, good ethical morals, honesty. And I always remember once my mum, she found a £10 note in a car park by a supermarket, like £10, $10. And she said, okay, we better hand this in. I'm like, why would you hand that in? Like, who on earth is gonna? She's like, someone might come back to claim it. Someone might have dropped it. It might be a lot of money to them. And she went into the supermarket and she handed it into the manager and said, just in case someone comes back, can you let them know? It's like, whoa. And she really taught us, be honest, be ethical, and also helping other people. She'd help other people. She'd help stray animals. Wherever she could help out, she'd do something. And I think me and my brother and my sisters, we all took that on board. And even when I had no money, when I was poor, I would do lots of things, usually completely anonymous. I wouldn't even tell my friends or anything about it, just to help out people that I saw needed help. And I don't know, I just think we're here on this earth for a few reasons. One, I think, is just to enjoy ourselves and have a great time. One is to make an impact and share what we know with other people. And the other is just to help out wherever you can, just to be like a good, decent person and try and help other people who need some help. I think all of us at some stage will be in a position where we need some help. And you'll appreciate it if someone else is helping you out. Just be a bit thoughtful and help people out where you can. And so when I got this skill of investing, I was like, wow, this is cool. I can make a big impact now. I can help a lot of people. And I just thought, hey, this would be a great way to do it. And we do, as you know, we do these live trading days now where we trade together. I trade my money for real in front of everybody. And at the end of the day, we give 100% of the money from the event to a charity. And we've done some cool projects. We did this one with SOS Children's Villages, and we made enough money from our events to build a well in Africa. And we built this well in the village, a freshwater well, and it helped the whole village. And I like things where you actually see the result and you see an impact. And we actually got to see the videos of everybody like just really happy that this had happened. And I love that kind of thing. I'm in a position where I have more than enough. I've got more than enough to help other people out. And I said, even when I was struggling, I still do what I could to help other people, because I thought one day I'll need some help from someone. Someone's going to be there for me. I should do what I can to help others as well.
Oh, that is such a beautiful mindset. I think if everyone had that mindset, the world would be a different place, completely different place, right? Because it's like,
yeah.
you just, and there's so many concepts you mentioned within your story. And you said honesty, you're honest and ethical, right? And I just thought about it and I thought, when people speak about money, when people speak about investing, honesty and ethics are not the things that come top of mind. They're like, oh no, these are greedy and they're going to do what it takes. It's cutthroat. And you are devoted to teaching trading in an honest and ethical way. And are there any things that you would say like are the 1, 2, 3s of trading or investing that any human being can know just off the bat when they're starting to get interested in investing?
Yeah, so kind of 3 really important steps of trading. Yeah, you've got to, what a lot of people do is they will try and learn lots of little bits all over the place. Like they go online and they watch YouTube videos and they'll pick up a few books and they get this kind of big confusing mass of stuff, and then they try and apply it and they don't know what actually works and what doesn't work, and they generally end up messing up and losing money. You've got to have a focus. And you've got to focus on a few good strategies that you know work, or you've learned them from someone that you can trust knows they work. Yeah. So I'd say number 1 is having a focus. Yeah, you got to focus on a few good things that work and not overwhelm yourself with all this kind of crazy stuff that's out there, and then trying to piece it together yourself. So focus on a few strategies, 2 or 3 good strategies, and just practice and get good at them. Well, I guess that's kind of step number 2. Is the first one is focus. Step number 2 is practice. And there's ways to practice so that none of your money is on the line. You can do virtual practice, which is the kind of risk-free way of making sure that what you've learned works and you've understood it. And there's, it's very easy to teach people how to do the practice properly. And then step number 3, I would say, is you start small. Just start with a small amount of money, something which, if it all screwed up and you lost it, you wouldn't be devastated by it. You can do a trade where the maximum risk, if it totally went wrong, you'd lose $10. I mean, who really? I mean, maybe you care if you lose $10, but hopefully not. And then you're learning from your mistakes in a way that's not going to affect you at all, really. So I say focus. Learn a few good strategies from someone who knows what they're doing, learn how to practice properly, and then start small. And then as soon as you're getting a good income coming in, you're making money, start to increase the amounts. And then you just build from there. You build it up and up and up and up. until you're getting enough money coming in that it's more than your income, your job. And then you can say, once you've done that consistently for a few months and you're confident that you've got it, you can say, well, do I actually want to keep working? And you've got that choice. Okay, I could quit my job if I wanted to. And what I'm doing now, investing with this strategy, is taking me 1/10 of the time or 100th of the time. So I've got my lifestyle, I've got my money, and I've got my time now.
I love those. And would you say those are the same for crypto, or would crypto have a different set of rules?
Crypto, I would say the same for crypto, but it would be different strategies that you're focusing on. Okay. So still focus on the right strategies, do the practice, start small, but it's different strategies that you focus on. And crypto is, I've been getting very big into crypto recently. is higher risk, so you've got to know a lot more about it. You've got to know what you're doing for sure. And a lot of people mess up in crypto because they haven't learned properly how to do it. But there's massive, massive, massive potential returns if you get it right and you know what you're doing. Literally, I did a trade. I just came back from 2.5 months in the Caribbean. I got back last week, and whilst I was there, one of the trades that I did there, it was actually a crypto trade. I invested $30,000, and within 1 week, that had gone up to almost $2 million. That's 30,000 to almost 2 million in 1 week, which to me was unheard of. I'd never even thought that stuff like that was possible. And it just blew my mind. I was like, that is incredible. That is like insane returns. Yeah. So, and after that, I started to really think I've got to master crypto investing, and I dedicate massive time. I mean, for the last couple of years, I've been dedicating a lot of time and effort, really mastering it, and that was the kind of proof that it can be huge. But you got to know what you're doing. Of course, you can also with crypto, you do it wrong, you can lose everything very easily. So you got to be careful. You got to know what you're doing, but huge potential.
That's insane. And how do people spot the frauds, Darren? I mean, I've been to so many of your talks. I know you are the real deal. But I do understand why so many people are hesitant to invest with anyone out there, because there are so many frauds. There are so many, snake oil salesmen, especially within the financial industry. So how do people identify the real deal and invest with them?
Yeah, I think a few things to look for. One is, first of all, has the person been around for a long time doing this? Because if it's a scam and they're stealing from people or they're teaching the bad stuff, they won't last long. They're gonna get caught. Something's gonna happen. I mean, we've been teaching investing now for 20 years, over 20 years. If you last a long time, it's probably something good that you're teaching, and if you've become more well-known, it's probably something good that you're teaching. But the other thing I'd say, which is kind of an even more important thing, is just make sure the person who's teaching the training, that they're prepared to put their money on the line and trade in front of a live audience and let the audience watch exactly what they're doing, which is one of the reasons why I thought this charity live trading day would be a great thing, because we're not just making money for charity. Everybody watches me trading my real money in front of them, and they can see everything I'm doing. They can see whether I make money or lose money. They can see, do I walk my talk? Do I know what I'm doing? Can I make money doing what I'm teaching? And they spend the whole day with me, watching me making money, basically, in front of them, walking my talk. And most well, I'd say anyone who's doing a scam or doesn't know what they're doing, there's no way they're going to do that, because they'd be found out pretty quick if they were doing that. And over the years, right from when I started teaching this, I'd always had something where I'd turn up for a day somewhere and I just trade my money for real in front of everybody, so they could see that I actually was doing what I said I was doing. Yeah, I think that's the key to it, really. And also, I mean, if somebody is good at what they do, they will get a lot of success stories, and they will have a lot of great testimonials, which we've now got thousands and thousands of success stories and testimonials from people who've done the course. Of course, you still always get the odd one or two people who will they'll say they did what you told them to, and they lose money. But when you really get into it, they'll go, well, actually, I broke that rule and I didn't do that and I lost money. And you're like, yeah. But if somebody goes through the process and they break the rules and they don't follow what you said and they lose their money, they can get emotional and they can say, it's your fault. You told me to do this. You're like, well, actually, you broke the rules. You didn't follow the strategy. But I mean, you're always going to get a few people like that. Whatever you do in life, yes. I guess.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so are you sure, Darren, that it's not about posting the Ferrari on Instagram? We shouldn't trust those people, the money stack.
A lot of people do that, don't they? The Ferrari and the picture of them standing by someone else's private jet.
I'm blown away that wasn't your top 3 to identify who to invest with. Watch for Instagram. Watch if they've got a Ferrari, trust them. If they've got someone else's money, trust them.
I do get some people saying to me, why don't you have all these pictures of wealth on your Instagram? I mean, my Instagram's pretty rubbish, actually. I hardly have anything on it, but I deliberately don't have pictures of me in private jets and cars, and I think it's kind of tacky, and it's people trying to pretend they're successful, really.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I think the other thing is when someone does actually become successful, they just don't care as much about trying to show that they're successful. You get this like inner confidence where I don't need to prove anything to anyone. I'm there. If people they can get a feel from someone. I think when you're listening to someone, you can get a feel. Hey, I like that person. They're honest. They're actually talking the truth here. You just get a feel for it. I think far better than pictures of flashy Ferraris. So.
I love it. It made me think of the saying by is it Margaret Thatcher, and she said, "Being powerful is like being a lady. If you have to say you are, you're probably not." So I think.
Yeah. I think it's to try and make up for something you're lacking in when you have to have all the flashy stuff around you. And yeah, I see this quite often. New people coming into the scene, and they got to have their pictures and their I don't know. You've seen it before. You know.
Well, Darren, should you ever need to, flash up your Instagram, just call me. I know all the tools and tricks.
Yeah, by the way, having a great Instagram is definitely a good thing. I should focus more on this. Very, very good for business.
It would be. Oh gosh, Darren, we are running out of time. But before you go, I want to know from you, what is one motto you live your life by? One or two?
One or two mottos. Okay. I guess not so much a motto, more of a kind of important rule to me, which is I always want to make sure that I'm doing. I'm always very conscious of how I spend my time. I want to make sure I'm spending my time in the best, most powerful way that I can, most fun way. Because time is like the super important thing. It's the only one thing in life that we've all got a limited amount of, is time. So when I think to do something, I won't just go. I mean, sometimes I just lie in front of the TV and watch Netflix, which is fine, and I want to do that sometimes. But if I've got a choice of things to do, I think, is this the best use of my time? Is this what I want to be doing right now? And if someone says to me, hey, can you come and do this for me? I'll pay you £5,000 to do that. And I think, well, no, actually, I want to spend time with my kids right now. And that's a more valuable use of my time. The money, whatever, I can get more money however I want to do it. But right now, my kids want to play this game. That's more important to me. That's the thing that's, when I'm older in life, that's going to be the important experience, not earning £5,000 doing some project for someone. So very, very conscious of how I spend my time. And yeah, I value it highly, value my time highly. And anything else. Yeah, I think to have fun now, just don't take life so seriously. It's very hard to upset me, I think, because I've been through a lot in life, and I've learned that things can go wrong and there can be problems. And I really do now try and take everything a lot more lightly, because I know that down the line, you'll look back on it and you'll go, okay, that was an important point. Even though it looked bad at the time, it was something which really helped me in life. So now I just try and look back on it straight away and say, yeah, okay, maybe this seems bad right now, but it's actually going to be a good thing, I'm sure, down the line. So not really a motto, but yeah, kind of a couple of important things to me.
Oh, I absolutely love it. And I think all of us can benefit from it, actually. While you're in the moment, just realizing that, as you said, time is finite, and you've got to live this life experience and make the best of it. I think we forget that, we get so caught up in everything that we forget that we only have a very limited time here, and you've got to live it in the best way. So Darren, thank you for spending your time with us. It has been
enjoyed
both
it a
an
lot,
honor
so
and a privilege. Yeah.
It helps when there's a very nice host as well, with a good attitude. So yeah, thank you. I've really enjoyed this talk. And we should say as well, just for everybody who's listening, Real Success Summit and the team, I just love being part of this and involved, because you guys are just doing amazing things. And this is what I really believe in life, is learning from the best people in the world. And that's exactly what you guys are doing, better than anybody, probably bringing all the best talent in the world together, people who you've kind of got to know over the years and trust. And I just think it's an amazing thing you guys are doing. So I just really feel happy to be part of this. And yeah, I love it. It's a great thing.
Oh, thank you, Darren. And we always love having you. So I look forward to seeing you again on our summit. And until next time, thank you for your time.
Yeah, great. Speak soon. Thank you.
Cheers, Darren. I absolutely loved that conversation. And if you did too, be sure to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you happen to be a part of our Real Success Club, you will get exclusive content from this very podcast. So if you have not yet joined us, please be sure to look out for it in the show notes below. We look forward to welcoming you to our exclusive community. However, if this is where you choose to leave us, thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.